Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, staring at the massive structure floating in space ahead of them. 3 months they had traveled from Earth, deeper into space than any human had ever gone before. Now they faced something that should not exist. The structure was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. It spun slowly around a distant star, its metal surface catching the light and throwing it back in strange patterns. Jake had seen many things in his 20 years as a space captain, but nothing like this. "Captain, I'm picking up signals," said Lisa Martinez from her position at the communications station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she tried to make sense of what she was hearing. "It sounds like someone calling for help." Jake moved closer to her station. "Are you sure?" Lisa nodded, her face serious. "The computer is trying to translate it now, but it keeps saying the same thing over and over. Something about distress and needing assistance." Ben Cooper, the chief security officer, looked up from his weapons console. "Sir, we should be careful. We don't know who built that thing or what they want." Jake understood Ben's worry. The Horizon was Earth's first deep space exploration ship, but it was not built for war. They had some weapons, but nothing that could fight a real battle. Still, if someone needed help, they had to try. "Kate, what do our sensors tell us about that structure?" Jake asked. Engineer Kate Sullivan checked her readings. "It's definitely artificial, Captain. The materials are unlike anything we've seen before. Energy readings are off the charts, but in a stable way. Like they have power sources we can't even understand." The distress signal continued to play through the ship's speakers. Even through the computer's translation, it sounded desperate and sad. Jake made his decision. "We're going in closer. Lisa, try to respond to their signal. Tell them we're here to help." "Sir, I really think we should report this back to Earth first," Ben said. "This could be dangerous." Jake shook his head. "By the time we send a message back to Earth and wait for orders, whoever is in trouble might be dead. We came out here to explore and make contact. This is our chance." The Horizon moved slowly toward the alien structure. As they got closer, Jake could see that it was even more impressive than he had thought. The structure had sections that moved and changed, like a living thing made of metal and light. "Captain, I'm getting a response to our message," Lisa said suddenly. "But the computer is having trouble with the translation. It keeps switching between different meanings." "What kind of meanings?" Jake asked. "Well, sometimes it sounds like they're saying welcome. Sometimes it sounds like they're showing us their weapons, and sometimes it sounds like they're singing." Kate looked puzzled. "That doesn't make sense. Why would they do all three things at once?" Before anyone could answer, the alien structure began to change. Sections of its surface opened up, revealing rows of what looked like massive weapons. Bright lights began to flash in complex patterns along its hull. "They're powering up weapons," Ben shouted. "Captain, they're targeting us." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. "Are you sure?" "Positive, sir. Those are weapons, and they're all pointed at us." Lisa looked confused as she listened to her equipment. "But Captain, they're still sending what sounds like a welcome message. And there's music playing now too." "Music?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. Beautiful music. Like nothing I've ever heard." Jake had to make a choice, and he had to make it fast. The alien weapons were clearly charged and ready to fire, but they were also playing music and sending welcome messages. It made no sense. "Ben, raise our shields and charge weapons, but don't target them yet," Jake ordered. "Sir, if they fire, first we might not get a chance to defend ourselves," Ben warned. "I know, but maybe this is some kind of test or greeting we don't understand." The alien structure continued its display. More weapons appeared, bigger ones this time. The lights flashed brighter and faster. The music got louder and more complex. Kate suddenly spoke up. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildup in those weapons. If they fire, our shields won't stop it." Jake felt sweat on his face. Everything about this situation felt wrong. The aliens were acting friendly and threatening. At the same time, his training told him to protect his ship and crew, but his heart told him they might be misunderstanding something important. "Lisa, send them another message. Tell them we come in peace and we don't want to fight." "I'm trying, Captain, but I Don't think our translation system is working right. Every time I send something, they seem to get more excited. The alien weapons were now glowing so bright that Jake could see them clearly without looking at his screens. The structure began, moving toward them slowly but steadily. "That's it," Ben said. "Captain, I request permission to fire a warning shot. Maybe if we show them we're not helpless, they'll back off." Jake struggled with the decision. A warning shot might make things worse, but doing nothing might get them all killed. "Just one shot, Ben, aimed away from their ship. Make it clear we're not trying to hurt them." Ben nodded and targeted an empty area of space near the alien structure. "Warning shot ready, Captain." Fire. The Horizon's main weapon fired a single plasma bolt into the darkness of space. It was meant to be a clear message that humans could defend themselves but didn't want to fight. What happened next changed everything. The plasma bolt, which should have disappeared harmlessly into space, instead struck something that none of them had seen. There was a small, beautiful structure floating near the larger ship. It looked like a work of art made of crystal and light. The moment the plasma bolt hit it, the small structure exploded in a shower of brilliant fragments. The change in the alien ship was immediate and terrible. All the lights stopped flashing. The music stopped playing. The weapons that had been pointed at them slowly turned away. Then came a sound that none of them would ever forget. It was a wailing, crying noise that came through their communications system. It sounded like the entire alien ship was mourning. "What did we just hit?" Jake asked quietly. Kate checked her sensors. "Captain, based on the readings, I think it was some kind of monument. Very old. The materials were ancient, and the energy pattern suggested it was important to them." Lisa's face went pale. "Captain, the translation system is working. Better now. I think I understand what happened." "Tell me." "Sir, I don't think they were threatening us at all. I think they were showing off their weapons as a sign of respect. Like showing us they trusted us enough to reveal their defenses. The music, the lights, the movement toward us, it was all part of some kind of welcome ceremony." Jake felt like the floor had disappeared beneath his feet. "And the monument? From what I can understand now, it was a memorial to their honored dead. Something sacred that had been there for thousands of years." Ben put his head in his hands. "We just destroyed their most holy site while they were trying to welcome us to their home." The alien ship was moving away from them now, slowly and sadly. More ships began to appear from behind the structure, but they didn't approach. They just watched as the Horizon sat alone with the glittering remains of the monument floating around them. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "I'm picking up transmissions, lots of them. They're not talking to us anymore. They're talking to everyone else." Jake closed his eyes. In trying to make humanity's first contact with an alien species, he had instead committed what might be the worst diplomatic disaster in galactic history, and now the entire galaxy was going to hear about it. Dr. Alan Foster sat in his small laboratory aboard the Horizon, surrounded by screens showing alien language patterns. For the past 6 hours, he had been working with Lisa Martinez to understand what had really happened during their encounter with the alien ship. What they were discovering made his stomach feel sick. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to a section of translated text on her screen. "When they first detected us, they sent out a message that roughly translates to, 'Welcome. Distant cousins, we greet you with joy and open arms.'" Alan studied the translation. As the ship's expert on alien life and behavior, he was supposed to help make sense of situations like this. Instead, he felt completely lost. "What about the weapon display?" Lisa pulled up another file. "That's the worst part. According to this, showing weapons to a new species is their way of saying they trust them completely. It's like showing someone the keys to your house on the first day you meet them. And the monument we destroyed?" Lisa's voice became very quiet. "It was called the memory of those who came before. It held the recorded thoughts and dreams of every member of their species who had died in the past 10,000 years. To them, we didn't just destroy a statue. We destroyed the souls of their ancestors." Alan felt like he might be sick. "How could our translation systems get it so wrong?" "Because we were scared," Lisa said. "The computer was programmed to look for threats first, peaceful intentions second. When it saw weapons, it stopped looking for other meanings. While Alan and Lisa worked in the lab, Captain Jake Morrison sat alone in his quarters, staring at a message that had just arrived from Earth. The message was 3 months old, sent the day they left Earth's solar system. It was from his wife, telling him how proud she was of his mission and how excited the whole world was to hear about humanity's first contact with aliens. Jake wondered what she would think now. What would anyone on Earth think when they learned that humanity's first contact had ended with them accidentally committing the worst crime imaginable against a peaceful species? A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in." Ben Cooper entered, looking tired and worried. "Captain, we have a problem. A big problem." "What now?" "I've been monitoring space communications since we left the alien structure." "The story is spreading, sir, fast." Jake stood up. "What do you mean, spreading?" "The Zephyrians, that's what the aliens call themselves. They're telling everyone what happened. And I mean everyone. There are dozens of alien species out there, Captain, and they all talk to each other." Ben activated a small device that projected a map of local space. Dots of light showed different star systems, and lines connected them like a vast network. "This is what we're seeing on long-range communications," Ben continued. "Every one of these lines represents a message being sent between alien civilizations. They're all talking about us." Jake studied the map. "What are they saying?" "Nothing." "Good, sir. From what we can translate, most of them are calling us dangerous, unpredictable, and violent. Some are calling us monsters." Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Brooks sat in the Oval Office reading a report that had just been delivered by Admiral Roy Campbell. The report was marked with the highest security classification and contained information that would change everything. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" President Brooks asked. Admiral Campbell nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Our deep space monitoring stations have been picking up increased alien communications for the past 2 days. At first, we thought it might be natural phenomena, but our best scientists have confirmed it. There are dozens of alien civilizations out there, and they're all talking about the Horizon incident." President Brooks set down the report. "How many civilizations are we talking about?" "At least 50 that we can identify, ma'am. Possibly more. And based on the communication patterns, they've been in contact with each other for a very long time. We're talking about a galactic community that's existed for thousands of years, and now they all think we're the bad guys." "I'm afraid so, ma'am. Several species have already announced that they're cutting off all possible contact with humanity. Others are moving their ships to form what looks like a blockade around our space." Dr. Richard Hayes, the president's science advisor, spoke up from his chair in the corner. "Madam President, there's something else you need to know. We've been analyzing the alien technology that our sensors detected during the Horizon encounter. Their ships are not just more advanced than ours, they're impossibly advanced." "What do you mean?" "I mean that their technology is so far beyond ours that comparing them would be like comparing a stone axe to a nuclear submarine. If they decide to take action against us, we have no way to defend ourselves." President Brooks felt a headache beginning. "How long before the Horizon returns?" 2 months, ma'am," Admiral Campbell replied. "But I'm not sure it matters. The damage may already be done." Back in space, the Horizon was discovering just how much damage had been done. Commander Steve Walsh, Jake's second-in-command, burst onto the bridge with news that made everyone's blood run cold. "Captain, you need to see this," Steve said, activating the main screen. "We just intercepted a message from something called the Galactic Council." The screen showed symbols that slowly translated into human text. Jake read it aloud. "To the species known as humans, your unprovoked attack on the sacred memory of those who came before represents a crime against all civilized beings. You have shown yourselves to be dangerous and unpredictable. All member species of the Galactic Council are hereby advised to avoid contact with humanity and to take appropriate defensive measures." "Defensive measures?" Kate Sullivan asked. "What does that mean?" Lisa Martinez, who had joined them on the bridge, looked pale. "Captain, I'm picking up more transmissions. Ships are moving throughout the galaxy. Lots of ships." "Show me," Jake ordered. Lisa activated her console, and the main screen filled with a map of nearby space. Red dots appeared throughout the map, each one representing an alien ship. There were hundreds of them, all moving toward the edges of human space. "They're surrounding us," Ben said quietly. But the worst news was yet to come. Dr. Foster appeared, on the bridge, carrying a data pad with a translation that made everyone stop breathing. "Captain, I've been analyzing the most recent communications. The Zephyrians have done something that apparently hasn't happened in thousands of years." "What?" Jake asked. "They've called in what the other species refer to as the Void Hunters. From what I can understand, the Void Hunters are some kind of ancient warrior species. Most civilizations pay them tribute to stay away from their territory." "And they're coming here?" "Yes, sir. The message says that the Void Hunters have accepted the contract to deal with the human problem. They should arrive in our solar system in approximately 6 weeks. Jake sank into his captain's chair. In one moment of misunderstanding, he had not only made first contact with an alien species, but he had also started what might be the first interstellar war in human history. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "there's one more thing. I've been monitoring Earth's communications, and it looks like our government is trying to prepare for something. Military ships are being moved, and there's a lot of emergency activity." "They know?" "Yes, sir. Somehow they know." Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people who had volunteered for a mission of exploration and discovery. Now they were returning home with news that might doom their entire species. "Set course for Earth," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir?" Steve asked. "What are we going to tell them when we get there?" Jake thought about his wife's message, about how excited Earth was for news of first contact, about how proud everyone was of humanity's first steps into the larger galaxy. "We're going to tell them the truth," Jake said. "We're going to tell them that we've just declared war on the galaxy's most dangerous species and we don't even know it yet." As the horizon turned toward home, alien ships continued to gather at the edges of human space. The galaxy had made its decision about humanity, and that decision was not good. The worst part was that humanity had no idea what was coming for them. General Patricia Young stood in the war room deep beneath the Pentagon, staring at a wall of screens that showed the movement of alien ships throughout the galaxy. Each red dot represented a threat that humanity had never imagined possible. In her 30 years of military service, she had prepared for wars against other nations, terrorist groups, and even asteroids from space. She had never prepared for war against an entire galaxy. "How many ships are we tracking now?" she asked. Colonel Danny Martinez, no relation to the communications officer on the horizon, checked his tablet. "Over 3,000 confirmed alien vessels, ma'am. They're positioning themselves at what appears to be strategic jump points throughout our local space region." Patricia rubbed her tired eyes. She had not slept in 3 days, not since the first alien transmissions had been intercepted by Earth's deep space monitoring stations. "What about our fleet?" "We have 200 ships total, ma'am. Most of them are exploration vessels like the Horizon. We have maybe 50 ships that could be considered military vessels, and even those are designed for operations within our own solar system." The numbers were impossible. 3,000 alien ships against 50 human ships. It would not be a war, it would be a massacre. Dr. Richard Hayes entered the war room carrying a thick folder of research papers. As Earth's leading expert on theoretical alien technology, he had been working around the clock to understand what humanity was facing. "General Young, I have the analysis you requested," he said, setting the folder on the conference table. "Give me the summary, Doctor. How bad is it?" Dr. Hayes opened the folder and pulled out several photographs taken by space telescopes. The images showed alien ships that looked nothing like human vessels. Where human ships were built for function and efficiency, these alien ships looked like works of art that happened to be capable of traveling between stars. "It's worse than we thought, General. These ships appear to be using technology that we don't even have theories for. They travel faster than light in ways that our physics says should be impossible. Their energy sources put out more power than our sun, and their weapons—" He paused and pulled out another image. "Their weapons could destroy entire planets." Patricia looked at the images and felt a cold fear settle in her stomach. "What are our options? Honestly, surrender or hide. We cannot fight them with conventional weapons. But Patricia Young had not become a general by accepting defeat. What about unconventional weapons? What about fighting them in ways they don't expect? Dr. Hayes looked puzzled. What do you mean? I mean that these aliens have been peaceful for thousands of years, right? They fight wars according to rules and honor codes. What if we don't follow their rules? Before Dr. Hayes could answer, the door opened and Tony Garcia entered. Tony was Earth's best spacecraft engineer, and he had been working on secret projects that most people did not know existed. General, I think I have something that might help, Tony said. He activated a holographic projector that showed the design for a new type of human spacecraft. What am I looking at? Patricia asked. It's based on alien technology that we captured from deep space probes over the years. We always thought the probes were natural phenomena, but now we know they were alien scout ships. We've been reverse engineering their technology for decades without realizing it. The hologram showed a ship that looked nothing like previous human designs. It was smaller, faster, and covered with weapons that seemed to grow out of its hull, like thorns. How many can we build? Patricia asked. With our current resources, maybe a dozen. But General, these ships are different from anything we've built before. They're designed to be operated by small crews, and they're built for hit-and-run attacks rather than direct combat. Patricia studied the design. It was not much, but it was something. How long? 6 weeks if we work around the clock. Do it. Meanwhile, in a secret facility in Nevada, Intelligence Officer Nancy Price was working on a different kind of preparation. Her job was to understand alien military tactics and find weaknesses that humanity could exploit. The problem was that most galactic species had not fought real wars in thousands of years. Their conflicts were settled through formal duels between champion warriors, or through economic pressure, or through diplomatic negotiations that could last for centuries. They fight like gentlemen, Nancy told her assistant, Kevin Brown. They announce their intentions, they give their enemies time to prepare, and they follow rules that both sides agree to in advance. That sounds reasonable, Kevin said. It's completely insane, Nancy replied. When we fight wars, we try to win as quickly and efficiently as possible. We use surprise attacks, deception, and psychological warfare. These aliens seem to think war is some kind of sport. Nancy pulled up a file on her computer that showed intercepted alien communications about human military capabilities. Reed made her smile for the first time in days. Kevin, look at this. The aliens have been analyzing our military history through our television broadcasts and internet communications. They think they understand how we fight. What do they think? They think we're primitive but brave. They expect us to line up our ships in neat formations and engage in honorable combat. They have no idea that we've been fighting dirty wars for our entire history. On the other side of the galaxy, the alien civilizations were indeed preparing for what they expected to be a short and decisive conflict. The Arcturian Trade Guild had positioned their massive cargo ships to cut off all supply lines to human space. The Centauri Defense League had placed their most powerful warships at strategic locations to prevent any human ships from escaping. But the most significant development was the movement of the Void Hunters toward human space. These ancient warriors had not been called to action in over 1,000 years, and their reputation was legendary throughout the galaxy. Captain Morrison and the crew of the Horizon were still 2 weeks away from Earth when they intercepted communications between alien fleets. Lisa Martinez had become expert at translating alien languages, and what she was hearing terrified her. Captain, I'm picking up a transmission from something called the Void Hunter command ship, she said. What are they saying? Jake asked. Lisa listened for several minutes, her face growing pale. Sir, they're discussing human military capabilities. They seem to think we're going to be easy to defeat. What makes them think that? According to this, they've been studying our history through our entertainment broadcasts. They think our wars are fictional stories created for amusement. Jake felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. They don't know we're serious about fighting? No, sir. They think war is something we pretend to do for fun. They have no idea that humans have been fighting real wars for thousands of years. Dr. Foster, who had been listening to the conversation, spoke up. Captain, there's something else. I've been analyzing their battle tactics based on these communications. They fight according to very strict rules. They announce their attacks in advance, they avoid targeting civilian populations, and they stop fighting when their opponents surrender. That's very civilized of them, Kate Sullivan said. It's also very stupid, Ben Cooper replied. In a real war, those rules will get you killed. Captain Morrison realized that humanity might have one advantage that the aliens did not expect. Humans had never learned to fight civilized wars. Every conflict in human history had been fought with the understanding that the losing side might be completely destroyed. The aliens were preparing to fight humans according to galactic rules of warfare, but humans had never heard of those rules, and they were not going to follow them. Back on Earth, General Young received a report that changed everything. A deep space monitoring station had detected something that no one expected. General, we're picking up human radio signals from deep space, the technician reported. That's impossible. We only have one ship out there. Ma'am, the signals are coming from the edge of our solar system. Someone is already here. Patricia looked at the data and realized what had happened. Some of the alien ships had arrived early, and they were studying Earth's communications to learn about human society. What are they learning? She asked. Technician looked uncomfortable. Everything, ma'am. They're intercepting our television broadcasts, our internet traffic, our military communications. They know everything about us. But what the aliens did not realize was that humans had been broadcasting their entertainment and news for decades. The aliens were seeing human wars, human violence, and human creativity all mixed together. They could not tell the difference between fiction and reality. They thought human movies about war were documentaries. They thought human news reports about conflicts were entertainment. And they had no idea that humans were capable of fighting. Wars that lasted for years, cost millions of lives, and ended only when one side was completely defeated. The galaxy was preparing to fight a species that they thought was primitive and harmless. What they were actually preparing to fight was the only species in the galaxy that had never forgotten how to be dangerous. The war was about to begin, and neither side understood what they were really facing. Lieutenant Colonel Dan Tucker crouched behind the twisted metal remains of what used to be the communications tower on Kepler Station. The human colony on the edge of explored space had been peaceful and quiet until 3 hours ago. Now it was a war zone. The Zephyrian fleet had arrived exactly as they said they would. They had broadcast their intentions clearly, given the human colonists 6 hours to evacuate, and politely explained that they would begin their attack at precisely noon, local time. Dan had never seen anything like it. In every war he had fought on Earth, the enemy tried to surprise you. They attacked at night or during bad weather or when you were not expecting it. These aliens had actually given them a schedule. Colonel, they're starting their approach. Sergeant Lisa Parker called from her position behind an overturned cargo container. Just like they said they would. Dan looked through his binoculars at the alien ships descending from orbit. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging slowly and visibly. Every few minutes they would broadcast another polite message explaining what they were going to do next. "This is crazy," muttered Private Carl Anderson. "It's like they want us to shoot at them." "Maybe they do," Dan said. He had studied the alien communications that Earth Command had shared with all military units. These species fought wars like sports games, with rules that both sides followed. They probably expected humans to line up and fight back in an organized, predictable way. Dan had other ideas. "Parker, Anderson, Rodriguez, take your squads and circle around behind those ships. Wait for my signal, then hit them from directions. They're not watching." "Sir, shouldn't we evacuate like they suggested?" asked Private Mike Rodriguez. "Negative. This is our colony, and we're not giving it up without a fight." The Zephyrian ships continued their slow, predictable approach. Their weapons were now fully charged, and Dan could see that they were powerful enough to level the entire colony with a single shot. But they were not firing yet. According to their broadcasts, they would give one final warning before beginning their attack. Dan smiled grimly. He had no intention of waiting for that warning. "All units, this is Tucker. Execute Plan Chaos in 3, 2, 1, now." What happened next was something the Zephyrians had never experienced in their thousands of years of civilized warfare. Instead of lining up to fight, The humans scattered in all directions. Some ran toward the alien ships, some ran away, and others seemed to run in random directions for no reason at all. Then, just as the aliens were trying to figure out what the humans were doing, explosions began going off everywhere. The humans had spent their 6 hours of warning time not evacuating, but preparing ambushes. They had hidden explosives throughout the colony, set up sniper positions in unexpected locations, and prepared traps that no civilized species would ever think to use. "What are they doing?" the Zephyrian commander asked his tactical officer. "This makes no sense. They should be fighting us directly." "Sir, they seem to be attacking us from multiple directions at once, and they're using weapons that are not designed for honorable combat." The Zephyrian commander was confused. In every war his people had fought, both sides agreed on the rules before fighting began. You announced your attacks, you fought from designated positions, and you stopped shooting when your opponent surrendered. These humans seem to follow none of these basic rules. Meanwhile, Sergeant Parker had reached her assigned position behind the alien landing zone. She could see alien soldiers setting up what looked like a base camp, complete with medical tents and supply stations. They were preparing for a long, organized battle. "Rodriguez, do you see this?" she whispered into her radio. "I see it. They're setting up like they're planning to camp here for weeks. Not if I can help it." Parker activated the explosives that her team had hidden under the landing zone during the evacuation time. The aliens had been so focused on following proper military procedures that they had not thought to check the ground they were landing on. The explosion destroyed half the alien base camp and sent soldiers running in all directions. But what shocked the aliens more than the attack was what happened next. Instead of following up with an organized assault, the humans disappeared. Parker and her team melted back into the colony's ruins, leaving the aliens to wonder where the attack had come from and whether more attacks were coming. "Sir, we cannot locate the enemy forces," the Zephyrian tactical officer reported. "They attacked us and then vanished." "That is not how warfare is conducted," the commander replied. "When you attack, you must maintain your position and prepare for counterattack. These humans are fighting incorrectly." But the humans were just getting started. Colonel Tucker had studied every piece of information about alien warfare that Earth Command had provided. He knew that these species expected their enemies to fight fair, follow rules, and behave predictably. So he had decided to do exactly the opposite. Over the next 2 hours, the Zephyrians faced a type of warfare they had never imagined. Humans would appear from nowhere, attack with whatever weapons they could find, and then disappear before the aliens could respond. Sometimes they used military weapons, sometimes they used farming equipment, and sometimes they used explosives made from colony supplies. The aliens had superior technology, better weapons, and more soldiers, but they had no idea how to fight an enemy that refused to follow the rules. "Commander, this is unacceptable," the Zephyrian tactical officer said. "These humans are not fighting according to any civilized standards. They attack civilians. They use illegal weapons, and they refuse to engage in honorable combat." "I agree," the commander replied. "Send a message to their leader demanding that they fight properly." The message was broadcast on all frequencies. "To the human military leader, your forces are engaging in uncivilized warfare. Please instruct your soldiers to follow standard galactic combat protocols. We are prepared to pause our attack while you reorganize your forces into proper military formations." Colonel Tucker received the message and could not believe what he was hearing. The aliens were asking him to make his soldiers easier targets. "Sir, how should we respond?" Sergeant Parker asked. Tucker keyed his radio to broadcast on the same frequency the aliens had used. "This is Colonel Tucker of the Human Colonial Defense Force. We don't know what galactic combat protocols are, and we don't care. This is our home, and we'll fight for it however we want." The response shocked the Zephyrian commander. In thousands of years of warfare, no species had ever refused to follow basic military courtesy. Even the most aggressive races observed the fundamental rules that made warfare civilized. "Sir, what do we do?" the tactical officer asked. I don't know. This situation is not covered in our military manuals." While the Zephyrians tried to figure out how to fight an enemy that did not follow their rules, More human colonies were facing similar attacks throughout the outer system, and in every case, the aliens were discovering that humans fought wars differently than any other species they had ever encountered. On Titan Station, Captain Greg Anderson received orders to evacuate in the face of an approaching alien fleet. Instead, he loaded his small patrol ship with every explosive he could find and aimed it directly at the largest alien vessel. "Anderson, what are you doing?" his second-in-command asked over the radio. "Something they won't expect," Greg replied. The aliens watched in horror as the human ship accelerated toward their flagship. They sent multiple messages demanding that the ship change course and engage in proper combat. When Greg did not respond, they assumed he was planning to surrender and prepared to capture his vessel. Instead, Greg broadcast a message that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. "Tell your friends that humans don't surrender. We fight until we win or until we die. And sometimes we take our enemies with us." The USS Liberty exploded against the alien flagship's shields in a fireball that could be seen from 3 star systems away. The explosion did not destroy the alien ship, but it did something much more important. It sent a message to every alien species watching the battle. Humans did not fight for honor or glory or political advantage. They fought to win, and they were willing to die to protect what was theirs. Dr. Monica Reed, monitoring alien communications from Earth's deep space listening posts, watched as the galaxy's attitude toward humanity began to change. The intercepted messages were no longer dismissive or confident. They were worried, confused, and increasingly frightened. "What are we dealing with?" one alien commander asked another. "I don't know," came the reply. "They fight like they have nothing to lose." But that's impossible. Everyone has something to lose. Not these humans. They seem to think that dying for their cause is acceptable. That's not civilized. That's not rational. "No," the first commander said quietly. "That's terrifying." As reports of human resistance spread throughout the galaxy, alien military leaders began to realize that they had made a serious mistake. They had expected to fight a primitive species that would follow galactic rules of warfare. Instead, they were fighting a species that had never learned those rules and saw no reason to start following them now. The galaxy was beginning to understand that they had not declared war on a primitive species. They had declared war on the only species that still remembered how to be dangerous. Commander Carl Brooks floated in zero gravity inside the alien ship he had just captured. His boarding team had cut through the hull with weapons that should not have been able to penetrate alien shields. But humans had learned something important. In the past few weeks of fighting, alien technology was designed to defend against civilized attacks, not against people who were willing to strap explosives to their bodies and ram enemy ships. "Sir, you need to see this," Sergeant Kim Davis called from across the alien bridge. Carl pushed himself through the air to where Kim was studying an alien control panel. The ship's original crew had surrendered the moment humans had appeared inside their vessel. They were now locked in their own cargo bay, probably wondering how primitive humans had managed to board their advanced ship. "What is it?" Carl asked. "It's their military database, sir. I've been using that translation program Dr. Foster developed, and what I'm reading doesn't make sense." Carl looked at the screen, which showed symbols slowly changing into English text. What he read made him understand why the aliens had been so easy to defeat. "According to this," Kim continued, "most of these alien species haven't fought a real war in over 10,000 years. The last major conflict was something called the Peace Wars, which ended when all the galaxy's species agreed to follow the same rules for everything." "What kind of rules?" "Combat rules, sir. When they fight, both sides have to agree on the battle location, the time of attack, the weapons that can be used, and the conditions for surrender. It's like—" Kim paused, trying to find the right words. "It's like they turned war into a board game." Carl stared at the information on the screen. "You mean they've forgotten how to fight real wars?" "Yes, sir. According to this database, the concept of surprise attacks, civilian targets, or fighting to the death is considered barbaric and uncivilized. They can't understand why we won't follow their rules." Meanwhile, Captain Susan Davis was learning the same thing aboard her ship, the UES Phoenix. Her vessel had been badly damaged in a fight with 3 alien cruisers, but she was still fighting. Half her crew was dead, most of her weapons were destroyed, and her ship was slowly falling apart. According to every rule of civilized warfare, she should have surrendered hours ago. Instead, she was using her damaged ship as a weapon. "Captain, the aliens are broadcasting surrender terms again," her communications officer reported. Susan looked around her ruined bridge. Sparks flew from broken consoles, the air was thick with smoke, and she could hear hull breaches whistling in the distance. Any reasonable person would surrender. "Tell them we're not interested," Susan said. "Ma'am, they're offering very generous terms. They say they'll provide medical care for our wounded and safe passage back to Earth." I said no. The alien commanders watching the battle could not understand what they were seeing. The human ship was clearly defeated. It should have surrendered, according to every rule of civilized warfare. Instead, it continued to fight with weapons that should not have been working, and tactics that made no sense. "Why won't they surrender?" the alien fleet commander asked his tactical officer. "I don't know, sir. They've lost 70% of their combat capability. By galactic standards, they should have surrendered when they reached 40% damage. Perhaps they don't understand the surrender protocols. We've sent them the standard surrender terms in their own language, sir. They understand. They just refuse to accept." What the aliens did not understand was that humans had spent their entire history fighting wars where surrender meant death or slavery. They had learned to fight until they could not fight anymore, and then to keep fighting anyway. Susan Davis proved this point when she aimed her dying ship directly at the alien flagship and fired her last working engine. The Phoenix screamed, through space, trailing debris and atmosphere heading straight for the enemy vessel. "Captain, they're trying to surrender to us now," her communications officer said with amazement. Susan smiled grimly. Too late for that. The Phoenix struck the alien flagship at nearly the speed of light. The explosion lit up half the solar system and sent shock waves through the alien fleet. But more importantly, it sent a message that reached every corner of the galaxy. Humans would rather die fighting than live as prisoners. On Earth, Chief Engineer Mike Roberts was having the most productive month of his career. Every day brought new alien technology to study, captured from ships that had surrendered rather than face human tactics they could not understand. "This is incredible," Mike told his assistant, Rachel Green. "Look at this power core design. It's at least 1,000 years more advanced than anything we have. Can we copy it?" Rachel asked. "Copy it? We can improve it. Look here. They designed this for maximum safety and efficiency. But if we remove some of these safety features and overclock the power output, we can get 50% more energy." Rachel looked concerned. "Won't that be dangerous?" "Extremely dangerous. It might explode and kill everyone within 10 miles. But it will also give us enough power to fight ships that are twice as big as ours." This was the difference that the galaxy was beginning to understand. Alien species spent centuries perfecting their technology, making it safer and more reliable. Humans took alien technology and immediately started modifying it to be more dangerous, even if that meant risking their own lives. Within weeks, human ships were appearing throughout the galaxy with weapons that terrified even their creators. The aliens would recognize their own technology, but modified in ways that should have been impossible and definitely should have been illegal. But the galaxy's greatest shock was yet to come. Admiral Julie Carter stood on the bridge of the USS Constitution, watching the most feared fleet in galactic history approach Earth. The Void Hunters had finally arrived, and they brought with them ships that could destroy planets and weapons that could tear holes in space itself. For 10,000 years, the Void Hunters had been the galaxy's ultimate weapon. When other species had problems they could not solve, they called the Void Hunters, and the Void Hunters had never failed to complete a mission. "Admiral, they're broadcasting," her communications officer reported. "Put it on the main screen." The image that appeared was of a creature that looked like it had been designed to be frightening. The Void Hunter commander was tall, covered in armor that seemed to be made of living metal, and had eyes that glowed with inner fire. "I am War Leader Thax of the Void Hunters," the creature said in perfect English. "We have come to end the human Threat to galactic peace. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Admiral Carter had fought in every major conflict of the past 20 years. She had seen things that would give most people nightmares, but looking at the Void Hunter fleet, she felt a fear unlike anything she had ever experienced. The Void Hunter. Ships were massive, each one the size of a small moon. Their weapons could be seen charging from millions of miles away, building energy that could sterilize entire worlds. These were not the civilized aliens that humanity had been fighting. These were predators who had spent millennia perfecting the art of destruction. "Should we respond, Admiral?" her communications officer asked. Admiral Carter thought about all the human colonies that had been destroyed, all the people who had died because of a simple misunderstanding during first contact. She thought about her own children, safe on Earth, but facing a future where humanity might not exist. "Open a channel," she ordered. "This is Admiral Carter of the Earth Defense Force. If you want our planet, come and take it." The battle that followed would be remembered as the turning point of the war. The Void Hunters came at Earth expecting to face another primitive species that would collapse under their superior firepower. Instead, they faced something they had never encountered in 10,000 years of warfare. They faced a species that became more dangerous the more desperate it became. Human ships threw themselves at Void Hunter vessels, with no regard for their own survival. When their weapons failed, they used their ships as weapons. When their ships were destroyed, the crews ejected in escape pods and tried to board enemy vessels with nothing but personal weapons and determination. For the first time in their long history, the Void Hunters began to take casualties, not just damage to their ships but actual deaths of their warriors. And as the battle continued, they began to understand something that would change the galaxy forever. Humans were not fighting to win territory or for honor or for political advantage. They were fighting for survival, and a species fighting for survival would do anything, sacrifice anything, become anything in order to continue existing. The Void Hunters had never faced an enemy that fought harder when it was losing. Every other species they had defeated became weaker as the battle went against them. Humans became stronger, more creative, and more dangerous. After 3 days of fighting, War Leader Thack sent a message that shocked the entire galaxy. "We withdraw our forces. The contract is void. We did not realize we were fighting children who had never learned to lose." The galaxy fell silent. The Void Hunters, who had never retreated from any battle, were leaving. The species that had been seen as the ultimate weapon had met something they could not defeat. And as the news spread throughout the galaxy, alien civilizations began to understand the terrible truth they had discovered.